Timber Falls. We follow a couple who experience terrifying moments on their hike. Their lovemaking puts them into hell. Watch what happens next. The film starts with a distressing scene of a girl bound and crying, with her hands nailed to a table. A shirtless man is shown hanging nearby. The girl escapes her restraints, removes her gag, and tries to escape the room. However, she discovers the man still restrained and encounters another person. Filled with fear, she runs through a forest but eventually reaches a dead end. Overwhelmed by fear, she tragically chooses to leap to her death to escape a menacing figure, pursuing her with a weapon. The scene transitions, and we find ourselves in West Virginia. Cheryl and Mike visit a ranger to ask some questions, but are met with rudeness. Undeterred, they proceed with their hike, despite the lack of a phone signal. Along the way, they encounter a local woman who tells them about the Timber Falls route. Intrigued, the couple decides to take that path. They capture some enchanting moments with baby, deer, and share a tender kiss, which leads to a deeper connection. However, their intimate moment is interrupted by strangers armed with rifles. Although harassed, Cheryl and Mike manage to remain calm. The strangers prevent them from leaving, and force Mike to consume alcohol, insisting that he buy the drink as he broke the seal. Mike opens his bag to retrieve the money but discovers his gun, triggering a sense of foreboding. Cheryl helps to calm him down, and they hand over the money before finally being allowed to leave. Later, Cheryl urges Mike to get rid of the bullets. Initially reluctant, Mike eventually complies and discards the ammunition. They encounter a man named Clyde, who shares stories of their hometown and his own medical condition. Clyde also suggests a suitable location for them to set up camp. Delighted with the campsite, Cheryl fails to notice someone observing her from a distance. At night, while enjoying a bonfire, Cheryl becomes aroused and leads Mike into their tent for intimacy. They share a joyful experience, yet an unknown figure continues to watch them from outside. After their encounter, Cheryl brings up the topic of marriage, upsetting Mike. The next morning, Cheryl goes to the river for a bath. Unbeknownst to her, someone is watching her. As she dresses, she sees a man with a hidden face. Mike wakes up and calls out to her. He finds Cheryl's necklace while washing his face. Suddenly, a gunshot is heard, and Mike becomes frantic looking for Cheryl. He injures his arm in his haste, but manages to make a makeshift bandage. He encounters one of the strangers who has found Cheryl's towel. Mike demands to know where she is, but the man claims he only found the towel. They struggle, and Mike overpowers him. Armed with a rifle, Mike explores the forest and stumbles upon a dead deer hanging from a tree. Overwhelmed with distress, he unknowingly steps into a bear trap, trapping his leg. Mike, trapped in a bear trap, is revived by Ida, who tends to his injured leg. They talk, and Mike learns her name. As Ida goes to use the radio for help, Rudy appears and asks for a couple. Ida distracts him, and Mike grows suspicious of her because she called him Michael earlier. During a struggle, Mike overpowers Ida despite his injuries. After seizing the opportunity to use the radio, Mike is disheartened to discover that it is not functioning. Growing suspicious, he realizes that the floor feels hollow. Unveiling a concealed door, he descends into the basement where he is confronted by jars containing preserved fetuses. Mike discovers Cheryl suspended and frees her before facing an assailant in darkness. He fights bravely but is eventually overpowered. Meanwhile, Cheryl seeks help from Clyde, who denies the danger therein. Meanwhile, the armed man approaches Clyde from behind. Startlingly, Clyde remains unperturbed, calling the men Deacon and questioning how he allowed her to escape. Cheryl tries to crawl away, but Clyde strikes her with a baton. The scene shifts, revealing Ida preparing for an event. Cheryl is dressed in a wedding gown, and the room is adorned with lights. Clyde asks the couple if they are willing to marry each other, and under duress, they comply. After the forced kiss, Mike utters something offensive, but Clyde swiftly threatens him. They are then bound and separated. Clyde re-enters the room, releasing Mike and inquiring about his knowledge of the Bible. Mike confesses his limited understanding. Clyde proceeds to explain his interpretation of Judas, who betrayed Jesus, contending that Judas was merely a pawn destined to commit the sin, and speculating that he may now reside in heaven. Meanwhile, Deacon approaches Cheryl inappropriately, prompting Ida's intervention, as she casts him out. Ida reveals that Deacon is her brother, who suffered disfigurement and lost his voice in a car accident. Clyde and Ida believe that Mike and Cheryl's premarital intimacy was sinful and offer to help them rectify their mistake. Ida shares her own struggles with fertility and offers Cheryl a fertility-enhancing tea, revealing the preserved fetuses as a result of her own miscarriages. Ida insists that Cheryl must become pregnant and provide them with a child. Left alone, Mike and Cheryl engage in a conversation where Cheryl suggests they comply with the demand. However, Mike realizes that once she becomes pregnant, they will kill him, and after giving birth, they will kill her too. The next morning, Cheryl's mother contacts the Rangers, expressing concern for her daughter. The Rangers decide to dispatch a search party for the couple. Clyde, Ida, and Deacon enter the room to check if the couple followed through with their demands. Mike adamantly states that they did not engage in the requested acts. Clyde grows furious and threatens punishment. However, Clyde receives a message on his radio from the Rangers inquiring about the couple. Mike attempts to call for help, but his cries go unheard over the radio. One of the Rangers encounters the strangers. Displaying a picture, the Rangers announce a reward for assistance in finding the couple. In the next scene, Deacon once again approaches and begins to violate Cheryl. She reacts with disgust. Meanwhile, Mike endures further torture. Deacon attempts to assault Cheryl, but Clyde and Ida intervene to protect her. Later, Mike confronts Ida about her obsession with obtaining a child. Defiantly, he asserts that he will never give them a child, regardless of the torture inflicted upon him. Ida threatens Cheryl, prompting her to laugh and disclose that she was already pregnant before the trip, and that the child was conceived prior to their marriage. Ida tries to attack Cheryl, but Clyde stops her. Broody and another person arrive, causing a disturbance. Clyde and Ida go upstairs to investigate, while Mike finds a knife to free himself. Broody enters the basement and is killed by Clyde and Ida. While burying the bodies, Ida suggests aborting Cheryl's unborn child, but Clyde disagrees. Clyde plans to kill the couple, but Mike manages to overpower him, resulting in Clyde's death. Ida enters the room, expressing anguish over her husband's death. Mike attempts to overpower her, but she retaliates by stabbing him. Cheryl intervenes, striking Ida and saving Mike. The couple endeavors to escape, but Mike's injured legs impede his mobility. He instructs Cheryl to find Clyde's walkie-talkie and call for help. While Cheryl makes the distress call, Deacon catches sight of her. He attacks her, attempting to strangle her. However, Cheryl seizes an opportunity, stabbing Deacon in the jaw. She urgently calls out to Mike, who locates a weapon to vanquish Deacon. During their struggle, they plummet into the basement. Cheryl narrowly escapes and runs outside. Resourcefully, Cheryl fashions a Molotov cocktail using alcohol and sets Deacon ablaze. Inside the house, the couple embraces, believing they have triumphed. However, Ida emerges from behind and charges at Cheryl. Mike shields her but sustains a fatal stab wound. In a desperate bid to save Mike, Cheryl searches a cupboard and discovers her phone. Mike's condition deteriorates as Cheryl frantically calls for help. The narrative then jumps forward by 1 year. Cheryl enters a bedroom carrying her baby, gently placing the child down to sleep. Mike follows her, smiling at both of them. The couple exits the room, leaving the baby in the crib. As the camera pans out, Deacon's hand ominously appears outside the window. If you like this recap, give us a like, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time on Glimpse It.